Okay, hello guys. Welcome to this course, C Programming for Beginners. And in today's video, we are looking at variables. What are variables? Before we jump right to explain what we have, uh, I'll just take you through what I have here. To put things in perspective, we will say a variable is more like a container where we can store series of informations like numbers, text, alphabets, etc. But in a more technical way, in a more technical form, a variable is a name of a memory location used to store a value that can be modified and reused many times during the program execution. And variables, before you use them, you have to declare them before you use them, right? And this is the general syntax for variable. You have a data type and then your variable name. Okay. I know you are not familiar with data type, but we are going to talk about um, data type subsequently. Okay. All right. So here we are going to put what we read earlier. We are going to put it in perspective. We are going to write it out in our code. So here I have a simple program written in C, and what this program does actually is to print out this text on the screen, on the computer screen. Don't bother yourself too much about all of this, what we have here. I'm going to explain that subsequently. Okay. Talking about this, just for now, for the sake of this video, what you should know about include stdio.h is that it is a header file that allow you use the printf function, right? Before I can use my printf function, I have to include this header file stdio.h. I will give a better explanation when I'm talking about including header files, but for the sake of this video, I'll just take that as an explanation. Just hold that in one hand. Okay, here we have a program and a function, and a function name is main, and it's going to return an integer data type. Okay, so here we have printf, and what printf does is to print stuff on the screen of the computer, more like printing on the console. Okay, I'm going to show how that works in a few seconds. And you have return 0. Return 0 is just to tell us that our program has run successfully. Okay, there are some programs where you encounter error. Okay, it may return a different value, -1 or whatever, to show that the program did not execute successfully. But when you are returning 0, it shows that your program have run successfully. Okay, so talking about what we have here, if I come back here, and I believe you are used to all of this, at least you should know build and run, which build, and this run. You have a button that combines both that build and run program. So if I come here, if I build and run and this code, so you're going to see this, the output of this code. Mike is 30 years old, printed on the console or the screen for us to see. So talking about variables, how does variable come into play in what we are doing today? Okay, take for instance, you are looking at something like this, and you have series of lines, maybe hundreds of lines to look into, and maybe you have this program, this preref program. In such 100, you want to make changes, I'll just go ahead and copy this and come back here and I paste it. I have that line, I paste it. Okay, take for instance, I said Mike is 30 years old, and I remember, oh, I just made an error. Mike is actually older than that. So I'll have to come to all my lines and begin to make corrections. Mike is 30, sorry, Mike is older, I think Mike is 45. Oh, sorry, Mike is 45. Oh, sorry, Mike. You see, that could be bothersome. I'll have to come here and make changes too. Mike is 45. That is a whole lot, guys. So that is why we have variables. And what do variables do? Variables, they will help you to create. You have a container that hold items in such a variable. Okay. And one interesting thing about variable is that variables can be modified. You can modify them in one place and the changes is going to reflect in all of your program. So that is what we are going to do right about now. Okay, so if we have this, then we go ahead, we come here to create a variable. So I'll create a variable and okay, I'll create a variable and our variable will be an int. If I say int stand for integer. So I want to make an integer variable, and what I mean by that is that I want to make a decimal number, a whole number. All right. So our variable name will be age. Okay. Then a semicolon is going to end with a semicolon. Then I'll come back down here and I'll give a value to that variable. So I'll say age, which is an integer variable, it's equal to what? 45. All right, it's equal to 45. So then I'll come down here, rather than writing all of this out, I'll come here, this printf statement, I'll come in. You see this place where I have this age, I'm going to use a placeholder. And what is that? If I'll use percentage D, this means that this is a placeholder that shows that, okay, I want at this point, I want to use this variable which I have declared. All right. So after I do that, I'll come here and I'm going to put a comma, give a space, then I'll type the name of my variable, which is age. I'll come down here and I'll do the same here. Send D, and I'll come here. I'll put a comma, then I'll type the name of my variable, and I'll come down here too, and I'll do the same. I'll go ahead and do the same, and I'll come here. I'll put a comma and write the name of my variable. So this is it, guys. We have created a variable. This is called variable initialization, variable declaration. Then we give variable initialization. We give a variable assignment, rather. We assign a value to our variable. All right. So if I have this, I'll just go ahead and build and run. So if I come here, build and run, so you can see this is going to print the same thing. Mike is 45 years old. Mike is 45 years old, because we have a variable. All right. So what if I come here in the middle of my program and I say, wow, Mike is older now. Probably Mike is 55. So I want to change Mike's age to what? To 55. All right. So if I come back here and build a run, so you can see that midway into our program, after printing the first age, the others will be 55. So I believe you understand what I'm trying to do here. So if I make that change, I only needed to change this to 55, and that change is going to reflect here, and it's going to reflect here. All right. I would not need to manually go and change each and every line of my code. All right. This may be simple, but when you're working on hundreds of lines of code, you will understand better how this works. All right. So we have just used the integer variable. We deal with whole numbers. Let's look at something else. Okay, in this program again, I have a program that prints this to the console. I am printing letters A, B, and C. So if I go ahead and build a run, it's going to display this to the console. So, but what if I want to make changes to to this, like we said earlier? I will come here and erase this and try to. What if I have 100 lines of code? In that case, I'll have to create a variable. So I'll just go ahead and we'll create a variable. So create a variable here, and here we are going to create another variable called char or character variable, and I'll just give that x. My variable names are x, y, and z. I'm creating character variables, and that allows you to create more than one of such variables at the same time. I just created 3 character variables, x, y, and z, in that order. So I'll just go ahead and assign values to my variables. So the first one, I'm going to assign letter A. Then the second one, I'm going to assign letter B. And the last one, I'm going to assign the letter C. Okay. Okay, this is supposed to be lowercase. All right. So I just assigned values to my variable after declaring them here. I declared them in a single line, and I assigned variable. I assigned value here. All right. So instead of typing this out, I'll just come here and I have variable. I want to print this out in my console. So I'll use a placeholder, like I said earlier. And this time, rather than use this D, I'm going to use the C placeholder, which shows that I am trying to print out characters. So I'll do C placeholder. Because I'm printing out 3 of them, I'm just going to do that 3 times. All right. So after that, of course, this should be in a new line. Then I'm going to put a comma here. Please don't always forget the comma. Then I'll put my variable names x, y, and z. All right. So this is it, guys. So after this, I'll just go ahead and run this program. Build and run. Okay. Sorry, it's supposed to end with a semicolon. Yes. All right. So I'll go ahead and build and run. All right. So I'm printing letters X, Y, and Z. So after doing that, rather than typing out this, and if I want to do the next one, I'll type it out, it could be tedious. So I could have a variable which is more like a container that is going to hold my values. So if I want to modify, I'll just have to modify the name, and it's going to reflect in all of my program. So here, rather than do this, we can just go ahead and create a variable, and this time it's not going to be an integer variable. We are going to have a character variable, and that is represented by char or char, whatever suits you. Okay, so I'm going to give it x, y, and z. What are we doing here? I'm declaring three variables and I'm giving them the name x, y, and z. All right. So after this declaration, this variable declaration phase, I'll go ahead and assign values to these variables. So I'll do x and I'll give it a particular value. This time I want x to be a. I'll go ahead and okay. The next one, y. I want my y to be b and my z is going to be c, the letter c. So I have given values to my variable. I've assigned, it's called variable assignment. I've assigned values to my variable. So I'll just go ahead and come here rather than typing out this ABC. I'll go ahead, come here, and I'm going to use a placeholder which I talked about earlier. And this time, rather than I'm not going to use the same d, percentage d, I'm going to use percentage c, which shows that this is what? A character variable. All right, a character variable. Since I declared three variables, I'm going to use, because I'm using three variable names, I'm going to do that 3 times. Okay, so after doing that, I'll just go ahead and come here, and the name of the variables, the first one is what? X. Then you have y and z. So that is what I'm going to do. So if I do this and okay, my lines have to end with a semicolon, and after doing that, then I'll just go ahead and build a run. All right, so I'm printing letters A, B, C. Come on, guys. What if I come here and I want to print the next letter? More like, I want to, let me copy this and come to the next line and paste that. So what if I want to print the next letter? I want to change this. I want to print D, E, F, which is the next letter. So all I have to do, I'll just come here and change this. Let me just copy this and come back here and I'll paste this. So all I need to do is to change the value of A to D, I'll change B to E, and I'll change C to F. So that's what I need to do. So I have this now. I'll just go ahead and if I come here and build and run, so you see, it's going to print out the next value. I'm printing ABC, the next one I'm printing D, E, F. So that is that, right? Variable will just help you do that. So I believe you understand what we are trying to achieve here using variable. So we are talking about the integer variable. Now we are talking about character variable. So the next one we are going to more like talk about something else. Okay, so all right, guys, for this we have this, a string of tests. We have a string of tests here, and Joshua loves programming. Joshua was 45 when he developed interest in programming. Tech Globe channel has really been of help to Joshua. Even at 45, Joshua will be a software developer next year. So I have this string of tests, and I can just go ahead, printf. It helps you print items to the console. So I'll come here, do that run, and it's going to print that out on the console. So all right, take for instance, I'm having this name here, Joshua, and this is just 4 lines of code. Let's say I want, right, this is just 4 lines of code. Let's say I have hundreds of lines of codes where I'll have to change the name Joshua. Take for instance, I want to use Joshua. This time it is Mike. I'll have to go through my programs and start changing line after the other. Joshua to Mike, Joshua to Mike, right? It's going to be very tedious, right? So what I'll need to do here is to create a variable. all right, to hold this name, and as well as our age. All right, so I'm going to be creating two variables here. So let's just go ahead and do that. So here I'll do, please follow, is a little different from what we did earlier. So the first one I'll be creating, I'll create an integer variable. I'll give it age. All right, int age. And on the same line, I'm going to assign a value to my variable. So age is 45. All right, so the next line, I'll go ahead and create another variable, and this time it's going to be character variable. So I'll call it name. I'm going to hold name, then I'll assign, okay, I'll explain this I'm trying to do now. I'm going to assign the value Joshua, right? I'm going to assign Joshua to that. So I'll end with a semicolon. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here, I have two variables. The first one, we talk about integer variables that hold whole numbers, and I assign the value 45 to that. Okay, I believe you can see that. Then the next one here, we have a character variable, but this time, why are we doing this? What we have here is more like a string, right? A string. And what is a string? A string basically is an array of characters. So this is an array. So this signifies an array. So this is a string, and a string basically is an array of characters. So string is not a native data type in C. So if you want to declare a string, you have to use this too, but you have to declare it this way, because a string is an array of characters. So after I do this, then how do I print? How do I add this? How do I incorporate this I have created into this text? So what I need to do, I'll have to go to my program where I have Joshua. I'm going to change that. I'll go ahead and use, this time, since I'm declaring a string, I'm going to use a placeholder, and it's not going to be %d this time. I'm going to use %s. I believe you understand that. S signifies string, right? I believe you are following closely. So S denotes string. So here it shows that I want to print out the name Joshua. That's what that denotes. Okay, so %s. So lost programming, and okay, I'll have to have a new line here. So after that, then I'll go ahead and put a comma like we have been doing. Then I'm going to type out the variable name, which is what? Which is name. All right, here, name. So the next one I have here, after that, I'll come here. So anywhere I have Joshua, I'll go ahead and change this to what? %s. I'll use %s, and I have age here, right? So what do you think I'm going to do here? I have age here. So what I'll do percentage. We are talking about an integer, so I'll use %d, which a placeholder for an integer. All right, then I'll come here at the end, I'll put a comma, and I'll do my name, which is the first, then another comma, I'll do my age. All right, so here I have Joshua again. I'll come down here and do what? %s. Then I have age here again. I'll do percentage what? %d. Then I'll put a comma here. I'll have name. I have name and what? Age. All right. So that is that. Then lastly, I have Joshua here. So I'll change it to %s, which is a string. So then I'll come here and I'll do my comma. Then I'll put name. Okay. All right. So that is what I need to do. So after I've done that, I'll look closely. Okay. 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 All right. I believe that's correct. So I've just included a variable, two variables in this program. So let's save and build a run. So let me save this program. Then build a run. So as you can see, we did not use Joshua, but you see that the variable we use, it printed out the name Joshua and as well as the age here, even though we did not use specifically come here and type Joshua. So what if I want to change Joshua to Mike? Okay, that's a string, right? That's a string. Sorry. Let's say I want to change the age. Joshua was a little younger when he started programming, so halfway into the program, I want to change age, right? So I want to change age to, let's say, was a bit younger when they start develop interest in programming. Let's say 35. So with that going to change? Is that going to change the age we have in the other part? Let's see. Let's build that run. All right. So as you can see, the age halfway to the program, we changed the age once, and it's going to reflect here. All right. So that is that. I believe that you are learning about variables, and we have